Have you ever lost your phone and felt completely helpless? I did. One morning, I reached into my pocket. My phone was gone, but a few minutes later, it rang, and a stranger answered. What happened next? Let's find out. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Daily Spoken English. If you want to improve your English listening and speaking skills through simple and interesting stories, you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to tell you a story called I Lost My Phone. Listen carefully, enjoy the story, and try to repeat some sentences after me. Now, let's begin. Yesterday started like any other normal day. I woke up at around 7 in the morning. I got out of bed, washed my face, and reached for my phone. I always check my phone first thing in the morning. I looked at my messages. I checked my notifications. Then I opened social media and spent a few minutes scrolling. After that, I got ready for the day. I took a shower, got dressed, and went to the kitchen. I had breakfast and checked my phone again. Everything seemed completely normal. I had no idea that a few minutes later, I would have a very stressful experience. After breakfast, I picked up my bag and left home. I walked toward the bus stop. The weather was nice, and I was thinking about my plans for the day. When I reached the bus stop, I waited for the bus. A few minutes later, the bus arrived. I got on the bus and found a seat near the middle. There were quite a few people on the bus. Some people were talking. Some were looking out the window. Others were using their phones. I took out my phone and checked my messages. I replied to one message. Then I put my phone away. A few minutes later, I received another notification. I took out my phone again. I checked the message and smiled. Then I looked outside the window. I was thinking about something when suddenly I realized that I was getting close to my stop. I quickly stood up. I picked up my bag. The bus stopped. I got off, and I started walking. Everything seemed fine. Then, after walking for a few minutes, I wanted to check the time. I reached into my pocket. Nothing. I checked the other pocket. Still nothing. I stopped walking. I thought, maybe I put it in my bag. So I opened my bag. I looked inside. There was my wallet. There were my keys. There was my charger. But there was no phone. I checked my pockets again. Nothing. My heart started beating faster. I thought, wait, where is my phone? I tried to stay calm. Maybe I had left it at home. So I started walking back. While walking, I tried to remember everything I had done that morning. I remembered using my phone in the bedroom. I remembered using it in the kitchen. I remembered using it on the bus. Then I stopped. The bus? I suddenly remembered that I had used my phone just before getting off the bus. Maybe I had left it on the seat. I became very nervous. I needed to find my phone quickly, but the bus was already gone. I stood there for a moment and didn't know what to do. Then I remembered something important. I could call my phone. I looked around and saw a man standing near a shop. I walked toward him. I said, "Excuse me, could I borrow your phone for a minute?" He looked at me and said, "Sure. Is everything okay?" I said, "I lost my phone." He gave me his phone. I quickly called my number. The phone started ringing. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. Nobody answered. I called again. Still nothing. I started losing hope. Maybe someone had found my phone and turned it off. Maybe I would never see it again. Then suddenly, someone answered. "Hello?" I froze. It was a man's voice. I didn't recognize him. I said, "Hello, I'm calling about my phone. I think you have it." There was a short silence. Then he said, "Your phone?" I said, "Yes, I lost my phone this morning." He asked, "Where did you lose it?" I said, "I think I left it on a bus." He replied, "Yes, I found a phone on the bus." My heart jumped. I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, I found it on the seat." I couldn't believe it. I said, "That's my phone." He asked me to describe it. I told him the color of my phone. I also described the phone case. He said, "Yes, I think this is yours." I felt incredibly relieved. I said, "Thank you so much." He said, "No problem." Then I asked him, "Where are you now?" He told me the name of the next bus stop. I said, "Please wait there. I'll come and get it." He said, "Okay, I'll wait." I thanked him again. Then I gave the phone back to the man who had helped me. I said, "Thank you so much." He smiled and said, "I hope you get your phone back." I quickly walked toward the next bus stop. I was nervous. I was tired. But I was also very happy. At least I knew where my phone was. When I reached the bus stop, I looked around. There were many people there. I didn't know which person had my phone. Then I noticed a man standing near a small shop. He was holding a phone in his hand. I walked toward him. I asked, "Excuse me, are you the person who found my phone?" He looked at me. Then he smiled. "Yes," he said. "Is this your phone?" I looked at the phone. It was mine. I smiled and said, "Yes, that's my phone." He handed it to me. I took it quickly. I checked the screen. Everything was still there. My photos were there. My contacts were there. My messages were there. I felt a huge sense of relief. I said, "Thank you so much." I was really worried. He smiled and said, "I understand. Losing a phone can be stressful." I asked him, "Did you wait here just for me?" He said, "Yes, I thought the owner might call." I said, "You could have kept it." He smiled and replied, "It wasn't mine." That simple sentence really touched me. He could have taken my phone. He could have turned it off. He could have ignored my call. But he didn't. He chose to do the right thing. I asked him, "Can I give you something for your help?" He shook his head. "No, thank you." I said, "At least let me buy you a coffee." He laughed. "No, that's okay." Then he said, "Just be careful next time." I smiled. "You're right, I will." I thanked him one more time. Then I started walking home. On the way home, I looked at my phone. I felt so happy to have it back. But I also started thinking, why was I so worried about losing my phone? Then I realized something. My phone had become a very important part of my life. My family contacts were on it. My photos were on it. My emails were on it. My banking apps were on it. My social media accounts were on it. Even my daily schedule was on it. Without my phone, I suddenly felt disconnected from everything. That experience taught me an important lesson. We should always be careful with our phones. We should also protect our personal information. When I got home, I immediately checked my important accounts. I changed a few passwords. I checked my banking apps. I checked my email. Then I turned on extra security for my important accounts. I also decided to back up my photos regularly. After everything was done, I sat on my bed. I looked at my phone and laughed. I said, "You gave me a terrible morning." Of course, my phone didn't answer. But I was happy. I had found it. And I had learned something valuable. Sometimes, a stressful experience teaches us an important lesson. That day, I learned to be more careful. I learned to stay calm when something goes wrong. And I learned that there are still kind people in the world. A stranger found my phone. He could have kept it, but he chose to return it. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for anything. He simply did the right thing. And that small act of kindness made me feel grateful. So, if you ever lose your phone, don't panic. Take a deep breath. Think carefully about where you used it last. Call your number. Use a phone-finding service, if you have one, and protect your important accounts. Most importantly, stay calm. Sometimes, the thing you think you've lost forever is actually closer than you think. And sometimes, a bad experience can end with a beautiful lesson. That was the day I lost my phone. But it was also the day I learned to be more careful, more organized, and more grateful. Thank you so much for listening to this story on Daily Spoken English. If you enjoyed this story and want to improve your English naturally, listen to it again. Try to repeat the sentences aloud. Don't worry if you don't understand every sentence the first time. Listen again. Speak along. And practice every day. Remember, you don't need to become fluent in one day. Just learn a little every day. Practice a little every day. And slowly, your English will become better. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to Daily Spoken English for more simple English stories and listening practice. See you in the next story. Keep listening. Keep speaking and keep improving your English. Goodbye.